In this video, I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about debt. I'm not going to start from the definition because I believe it's something you already know, but I'm going to tell you something that is going to shake you and hopefully it's going to help you to make a better decision next time you want to borrow money. One thing about debt is that for every money you borrow now, it is a portion of your future that you're bringing into the present to be spent. It is a portion of your future, I repeat, that you're bringing into the present to be spent. And yeah, before you start to argue that there's such a thing as good debt and then bad debt, even a good debt can become a bad debt if you're not borrowing it in the time when you're supposed to borrow it. If you're borrowing a good debt at the wrong time, it is going to become a bad debt. Now, what's a good debt and a bad debt in the first place? A good debt is money borrowed to do business or to buy appreciating assets, while a bad debt is money spent on pleasure or fast depreciating assets. I'm going to be talking about secure and unsecured debt very soon. So before I go into telling you how a good debt can become a bad debt if you are not careful about when you borrow it, I'm first of all going to be telling you the definition of secure debt and unsecured debt. Secure debt is whichever money it is that you're borrowing someone, for example, and you're collecting a collateral in return, so that if the person doesn't return it, you can easily sell it off and then get your money from the collateral. And unsecured debt is a money borrowed to someone without a collateral involved. Now, let's come back to good debt and bad debt. You might start thinking of borrowing money to start a business since you know that a money borrowed to start a business is good, yeah? Okay. But here is the error. You're not supposed to borrow money to start a business. You're supposed to borrow money to scale a business. A debt is only good when it is borrowed to scale a business. When it is only borrowed to scale that asset that you're trying to build. You're not, because whenever it is that you start a business, for example, you're going to fail at some phase. So you're going to, the starting time, you're going to make a lot of error. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You don't want to borrow money to make those mistakes. The little fund you can be able to afford to push into that business when you're starting out is the fund you want to push into that business. Make as much mistake as you can make with that money. Learn from them, learn from it, and then when you've been able to understand very well how to now hold that business together and how to grow it, that is when you now want to start borrowing money to now actually scale. Borrowed money is meant for scaling your business. It is not meant for starting a business. This is the reason why I defined secure and unsecured debt for you. If you're going to be borrowing people money, make sure you're collecting collateral from them. And we're going to be using the banks as an example. One of the things the bank do that makes them not to run out of business, even though some people are not they are not paying back the money it is that they collected from them, the loan they collected, is because these banks always take a minimum collateral that is worth 130% from whoever it is that they are borrowing money to. They are taking a minimum of 130%, so that even though they are going to be selling whatever thing it is that they are taking as a collateral from you, they can easily sell it at any price just to get their money back. They don't really care, even though it's worth 130%. They can decide to sell it at 100%. They can decide to sell it at 90%. If you've paid a little of the money before, they can decide to sell it at 70, 80, and useless whatever thing it is that they've collected from you, and then take their money to be able to complete the money it is that you're yet to pay, and then they can now probably just give you the rest. Now, the same thing applies to you. If you know you're not going to be taking a collateral before you borrow people money, at least make sure you're now borrowing people money that you can afford to lose, money that you don't mind if the money is gone forever. That is the money you now want to start borrowing people. Or else, if you know you cannot afford to lose that money, either collect a collateral or have a signed agreement. Or you can even do the two, have a signed agreement and collect the collateral. All right, so that is it for this video. See you guys in the next. Bye.